Yeah, I know wading into the Ukraine situation is perilous. It's like sitting in the legendary chair of Siege Perilous by King Arthur. Only the true in heart would remain in this world. The others, you'd end up in a different world. So let's go through this a little quick because we're not being told the truth, and you need to understand what's going on here. And understanding the truth does not mean you're pro-Putin, okay? But we have to understand Putin's motivations and his machinations and why he used a lot of this as a pretense to go in. And believe me, the U.S. government is not innocent at all in this, at all, okay? The U.S. government and NATO and the Western powers are not innocent in this. The people who are innocent are the Ukrainians getting slaughtered, and the people who are innocent are the Russian conscripts, young people being forced by Putin into this battle who are getting killed, okay? So we have two groups of people who, through no fault of their own, are being pitted against each other when they don't really hate each other and being forced to kill each other, okay? So let's understand that. Let's become acutely aware of what's happening, that innocent civilians and innocent people are being killed, and that young people on either side of this divide are being used as proxies and puppets to fight a war. Okay, so let's understand that. That doesn't make you pro-Putin to say that. Now, in 2014, there was an election in the Ukraine, and through a color revolution, reportedly conducted by the CIA operatives and Soros, that election was overthrown. And when that government that was elected in 2014 was pro-Russia. And so the Russians living in Ukraine, in the Donbass region, rejoiced because, hey, now we have a government that's looking out for us, because the Ukrainians and certain radical forces within Ukraine were killing the Russians in the Donbass. Up to 15,000 of them, of 15,000 Russians or Russian-speaking people or ethnic Russians in the Donbass were killed. Putin's retaliation for that overthrow was the annexation of Crimea. And I actually witnessed that real time on a live stream we had at Indiana Wesleyan with a Ukrainian professor who lived in Crimea. And we could see real time the Russian soldiers, called the Little Green Men because they had no insignia on them, right outside her window. And she said, imagine waking up and suddenly you're no longer Ukrainian, you're now Russian. Your car insurance, your mortgage, the money, everything you have has gone from Ukrainian to Russian. So that was Putin's gambit. He said, if you start a color revolution and you overthrow a government that I want, I will annex Crimea. So that was really the big warning shot that Putin fired across the bow of the U.S. State Department, the deep state, the military-industrial complex. Hey, you mess with me, I'll do this. Okay. Fast forward to now, during the Trump era, nothing happened. Now, the same group of people under President Obama are now back under Biden, and they're back to their machinations, and they're trying to again, manipulate that region. And Putin and his oligarchs and his military decided they would strike on the Ukraine. I'm not excusing anything. You just have to understand the mental machinations that Putin went through to do this. Now, no matter what anyone tells you, the only way out of this is a peace talk. We need to meet in Paris and have a Paris peace talks, because all we're doing is getting the Ukrainians killed. The more weapons we give them, because I believe that Putin thought he would do the same thing to Ukraine what he did to Crimea. He would march in, they'd be terrified of him, the government would collapse, they'd fall back, he would take over the Ukraine, and he would reinstall the government that was elected in 2014 that was pro-Russia, and then life would go on. But we, in NATO, in the United States, we interfered, maybe with the best of intentions, but the road of hell for the Ukrainians is paved with good intentions, and we gave them advanced weaponry that NATO has, and we started killing Russian troops. And then we have crazy people who get on Sunday morning talk shows here in the States and brag about giving the Ukrainians surface-to-air missiles, and we blew up a Russian troop transport aircraft, killing God knows how many Russians. Is that really going to win the Russian people over to the West? I mean, that's insanity to do that. That's insanity to go on national television and brag about killing all those Russians. What did you accomplish? Did you feel great that the Russians are dead? I mean, that's insanity to think that way. It's the innocent people in this are the Ukrainian civilians caught in the crossfire between NATO and the West and Russia. And this has been a long simmering feud really since about 2008 and before, when President Obama and that group of people who are now back in power with Biden have been having machinations against Russia. This culminated in the election of 2016 and Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton lost, and then the whole Russiagate began. The only way Trump could have won, possibly in their minds, was Russia had to be involved. So this was a direct assault on our democracy by Russia. That's been totally disproven. That is totally false. There's not one shred of evidence in it. Nothing has come to light that Russia had any meaningful manipulation of the votes and the democratic process in America. Did Russia interfere? Certainly. Do we interfere? Yeah, we're interfering right now in Ukraine. So, but the ability for Russia to manipulate the election in 2016 was at best negligible. But they kept that Russia gating going, right? They kept it going. So now we're at the logical conclusion of the Russia gate that we now must, take Putin out. Remember, it was no accident, and Jimmy Dore pointed this out, that Joe Biden was allowed to end his war unceremoniously in Afghanistan because they had a bigger war in mind. Like, forget Afghanistan. We're going to go for the crown jewel. We're going to go for Russia. And the Russians, that's how they see it. So anyway, I understand this is a dangerous thing to put out there, but I'm not taking sides in this. I'm trying to understand what happened. Finding who's at fault is meaningless right now. We've got to get our leaders, and we got to help get Russia and Ukraine to a peace table in Paris, just like we did in Vietnam, the Paris peace talks. We've got to get peace talks started because believe me, we're on the knife edge of nuclear annihilation. This is no goddamn joke. We are on the knife edge of nuclear annihilation. If Putin thinks he's trapped, and those oligarchs, and they think they're trapped, they will launch. There's no question in my mind. And I don't care if Washington, D.C. is suicidal. I'm not, and I hope you're not. So the leaders have to be told, we're not going along with this destruction of Russia, the killing of these Russian people, and the continuation of this war that's only slaughtering more Ukrainians and destroying that nation. In situations like this, you got to be a pragmatist, and you have to get to a peace table and talk. The only outcome that will be acceptable to Putin, I guarantee you, is Putin will remain in power, Ukraine will be neutral, the Donbass region, the Russian-speaking ethnic regions will become either independent or part of Russia. That's the only way out of this mess. Like I've said during the pandemic time, there's no good option here. There's no good option. So please understand, I'm not pro Putin saying this. I'm pro survival. I'm pro keeping Americans alive, Europeans, Ukrainians, and even Russian people alive. I don't want to see anyone killed. Okay? And these leaders on both sides are literally suicidal. When they start talking about nuclear weapons, that's suicidal thinking. Okay, so that's my position. Paris peace talks is the way out of this. It's not going to be satisfactory to anyone, but it's better than the alternative, which is maybe potentially nuclear annihilation and the end of civilization as we know it.